Hey guys, it's James here with Kickstarter Board Game Spotlight, and I am joined with Dan, who has an awesome game on Kickstarter called Gadgeteers. Dan, say hi.
Thank you very much, James. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Sure. So Gadgeteers is one of, is it 3 games that you've also done? This is your 3rd game?
Yeah, technically 4, but yeah.
Okay, 4 game. Awesome. And right now it's sitting at like 70%. I got my notes here. 70% funded, 169 backers. The game takes 20 to 30 minutes. It's a 2 to 3 player game, and 10 years old, and $19 base to grab the game. So it's very affordable.
That's right. Yeah, that was one of my goals. My last 2 games were a little more expensive, and I wanted one a little smaller and a little more reasonably priced so that you could bring it anywhere with you and not be afraid to spend money after Gen Con, something that's just kind of lighter on the pocket.
Absolutely. So, all right, so let's jump right in. First of all, the art looks great. It's cute, but not too cute. So it's kind of got that family vibe, but you could also whip it out on game night and it wouldn't be that big a deal. So can you just talk a little bit about what inspired you on this game and kind of the theme and that sort of thing?
Sure. Yeah. Well, so it originally started, I was playing a lot of Area Control at the time. I was playing Mob Town by Danny Devine a lot. And when I was playing, I was thinking, with a lot of Area Control, you're just fighting for locations. I was like, well, what if you banked so much on a location that you got a reward for it, but your tokens or something got cleared so that whoever was fighting with you would then control it themselves. So that kind of idea of a balance of power, that once you got a reward, your position would be removed and someone else would then take power, was the whole thought for it. So I came up with it about 2 years ago, almost in the fall. And so it was a pumpkin patch based game because I was like, in the fall, we were inspired. We were doing pumpkins, picking a lot. And it was like a pumpkin patch where you're placing crows and trying to fight for powers on the pumpkins. And that was just the initial thought. And then I've been working with Michael Kofer. I didn't have time to develop the game a lot at the time. And so I sent it to him and I was like, hey, you want to help me make a game? And he was like, yeah, this sounds like a cool idea. And we bounced around a lot of ideas with like circus theme and other things. And then I'm a scientist, and STEM's really big right now. So yeah, I mean, obviously it always is. And so we were like, let's make something cool, gadgety inventions, and make it really like that technical engineering type theme. And kind of the rest of the mechanics flowed from that, which was awesome.
Awesome. Well, I know I was reading through a lot of the reviews that you had on the page and then watched a couple of the videos. And one of the reoccurring themes that I saw a lot was there's a lot of game in a small package. And I've actually played the game too. And that was even something that I think I felt like I said and walked away with. And so what do you think that they've captured in the essence of your project there when this kind of keeps being the reoccurring theme?
There are a couple things. Yeah, I think, it is. It's a small box, but it kind of gives you a big experience. There's some people were saying like an escalation of strategy as the game goes on, which I really like that because it's true. It starts out simple, and you don't have to like focus on too much of what's going on. But as people are placing tokens and you start gaining powers, there's a lot more you can do to manipulate and bluff. And all of a sudden your strategy just broadens in what you can do. And it's like, oh, but you've already been playing for a couple of rounds. So it's like you just kind of streamline, expand your horizons, and it just very smoothly flows like that. I don't know if you noticed that too, but a couple of reviewers were noticing that. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what we're going for. So.
Yeah, who do you think nailed it? Because I know when we did our game Barnyard, I felt like Lance, Undead Viking, did the best job explaining the strategy behind my game. So if somebody goes out and only watches, say, one review of your game to see if it's for them, who do you think grabbed it the best?
So, I mean, everyone did a great job. I mean, it seemed like everyone who played it picked up on the essence of it. But I think, obviously, Rado, because he puts the camera in the position of it and explains what he's thinking, he really pulled out, like, he was like, well, I could go here, but she could be bluffing. So I could go here, but what if she's not bluffing and I waste the token? And he was going through and then he's like, but I could also go here and bluff her out. And so he really, I remember when I shared his video to my co-designer, he sent me a message and all he said was, he really gets it, with an exclamation point. And it was true. Like he really knew what we were trying to do and develop with it. And it really felt like he was in the game and in our heads when he was thinking about it. So that was cool.
It's funny because Richard's energy is the thing that I love, and it's that polarizing part of his personality. Either you love it or you hate it. So,
Well, I agree. I don't know if you notice, I talk fast too and do things, and he's very much like that. He's in the game and he's doing this and he's doing that and he's all over the place. And I mean, the game is very thinky like that in your head when you're playing it. It's just you're all over the place trying to figure out what to do. And I think he really nailed it with that.
awesome. So, talk a little bit about the blind bidding and that main mechanic as far as like, how did that become? I know you said a little bit earlier about it, but can you talk about that just a little bit more in the blind bidding and how that facilitates a lot of the fun in the game?
Sure. Well, so it started with open bidding. So originally the game was like you had 7 tokens at a time, and on your turn you could put as many out as you wanted, but everyone saw where you were putting them and how many there were. And when you did that, it was just like, well, I'll put 2 and you'll put 2, and then I'll put 2 and you'll put 2. And there wasn't really a lot of thought to it, because it was just like you saw what I did and you tried to double it or something like that. And so then we switched to the blind bidding, and that added a lot more depth to, well, what is he playing? And obviously when we added the power tokens that are also the bluff, that added even more depth to it. But I think the real key too was at the end was when we didn't add the 3, 4, 5 tokens till like really towards the end. And what was cool with those was originally, you had the 0s, 1s, or 2s, and basically there was no reason, and you had a 3, but there was no reason not to play your highest when you wanted something, right? So it was basically like, okay, I'm just going to put my heavyweights out, win, get them back, and it doesn't matter. Well, what we decided at the end was we'll add a 3, 4, and 5, but they're one-time use. So it was like, now it adds weight. It gives meaning to your decisions, because before it was just like I could just throw out my best and it doesn't matter. But now your decisions really had meaning. Like, do I really want to invest in this and lose it's worth a point at the end and it's my strongest token? Do I really want to risk it? And so adding those in really added a lot more thought and meaning to your decisions. I think that was probably one of the best things we added into it. We tried to just take blind bidding to a higher level, I think, is what we were trying to do with that.
Yeah, I know my strategy most of the time was I wanted to get something built on my first turn, so I was blowing out all of my big tokens right out of the gate so I could grab something and have that special power for the rest of the game. And it worked for me sometimes.
Sure.
Sometimes not.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing too, is with those powers, it kind of gives you more to think about, because it's like, well, do I want that cool power, or do I want the color that gives me an extra bonus point? And so it just gives you a lot more, in your thought process on what to do and what to play for. Or do I just want to get the quick one, use only a couple of my parts that I'm taking, and keep tokens out there so I can build more later? So there's really a lot to think about. I think that's the thing a lot of people probably don't necessarily realize at first glance, is how much is going on with this little game.
Yeah, actually, when I played it the first time, I was like, okay, that was okay. That was fine. And then, like I try to do anytime I'm going to review or have one of these interviews, I try to play something 3 or 4 times. Yeah. And it got better and better each time I played it. And around the 4th or 5th play, I was sitting there like staring over the board, whereas the first time I was just kind of throwing stuff out and it was whatever. Yeah. So you really dig into those strategies after you've played a good bit.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is once you really realize what powers there are and what you can do, and once you play with even the same person and you realize how you can maybe psych them out or their modes of play, you're like, oh, I can play them this time. This is going to be great when they waste a token on this. And it's just like, it really adds to the experience, I'd say.
Yeah, my little 7-year-old, I would throw out a power token on something and try to make him think I was going after a specific invention. And he was like, no, I need that, Dad. Don't play on that. Like, sorry, buddy. And flip him over and he sees the power token. He'd be really ticked. All right, so go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, one time I was doing that too, and I was trying to psych someone else, and then they played on it as well. And then another person played on it, and we were all just like, and then we revealed that we all played our power tokens, and we were all blocking each other. It was like, oh, come on. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah. I love those moments when you're playing games. That's my favorite. So what do you feel is kind of like the main appeal of this game, and why would people want to add it to the game shelf?
Well, I think, we've touched a lot on it. It's a small, inexpensive game that has a great big experience. It scales well with levels of players. So if you have younger kids, you can play it such that everyone has a great gaming experience. But if you have older just gamers, you can really, it has almost that chess feel where you're playing the opponent and the game. And so it really does scale well with age and experience, I think. And I think that's probably one of the best appeals to it.
Cool. All right, so that kind of, I think, puts a nice bow tie on that. What else do you got in the pipeline? What else you got going? I know you're always designing the game crafter community. I always see you over there chatting and talking up with people. So I know you've got some more stuff in the pipeline. Is there anything else you can share with us?
Yeah, well, so I was fortunate enough to have one of my games signed by Button Shy this year. So that's going to be, I think, on Kickstarter next year in May, which was awesome. I'm working on another one that I'm hoping to pitch to him maybe soon. That's kind of still in development. That's kind of a variation on the last game he signed. There were certain things I didn't like about it, so I was like, I'm going to make another small game that fixes the things there's nothing wrong with it, but it's just with that style of play, I'm like, I want to find something else that takes it in a different direction. And so I started making another wall game that kind of is like kind of almost a mirror opposite of the last one. And I'm also working on a couple other small games myself and with other people, but nothing that's really too far along.